What advice would you have for new managers? I just got promoted and I'm so excited, but I've never managed people. Any suggestions on getting started? All right. This is awesome. Congratulations. What I would say is keep your enthusiasm, but you're the boss. So you got to get your shit together. You have to have more than just enthusiasm. You have to have a vision for what your group is going to do. You have to be able to have a really clear assessment of where your team sits, what they're good at, what they're not good at, where they need help, what the biggest opportunities they haven't tackled are, where the biggest problems or the threats lie. Like, you got to have a really good look at who's in your team and what their strengths and weaknesses and opportunities are. And then you also really need to listen. So when you're a new manager, I think the best thing to do is just to listen. Listen to what your boss wants. Listen to what your boss's boss wants. And listen to what your team cares about. What are their complaints? What are the things they love? What are the things they wish they could do more of? What's holding them back from being successful? I think if you can listen, have a clear strategy, and be consistent in how you manage it. You got to have weekly meetings. You got to have one-on-ones. Like, you got to put the time into your team. And then finally, if you do all those things and you deliver results for your company, your team is only going to get bigger. All right, second question, very timely for this episode. So my company just went through massive layoffs and a complete restructure, and I'm one of the ones who made it through. A lot of my favorite coworkers have been let go, and everyone's a little bit uneasy. I have the same manager I've had since I started, who I really respect and care for, but I'm wondering what questions I should be asking them about how this reorg affects me and what I can be doing to stay proactive. Okay, all right, so one is, every company should change over time. So reorganizing yourself, imagine if your closet looked the same way it looked a year ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 months ago, right? 6 months ago it was winter, and now we're getting into spring, summer. If you still only had wool sweaters and sweatshirts in your closets, you would be poorly dressed for the season, right? So changing things, reorganizing things, getting things put into the right place, shifting what you have and making sure it matches what you need is an important part of life, right? We have the home edit as part of this episode, like cleaning through all your stuff, getting organized with it, figuring out what you need, what you don't need, how things have changed. Maybe you gained weight, maybe you lost weight, right? Maybe you used to like the color blue and now you like the color pink, right? Work is no different. And companies need to continue to look at how they're organized, what they're oriented to, and what's working and what doesn't work. If you are in a company that never changes, that company is probably not going anywhere anytime soon. Now, if your company's reorganizing, what I would be sure that I understand is why, right? Why is it changing? What is the change in demand? What's the change in how your company's oriented? Why did your bosses or your boss's boss's boss decide to make the moves that they've decided to make? I think you can be proactive about asking those questions, and then that will help you feel less uneasy. Of course, change is stressful. Change is stressful for everyone. Change is stressful for me, but it can be really good stress if you understand why something is changing, and then that understanding will give you the ability to decide how you want to be part of the go forward and how you want to be part of the future. All right, second reorg question. This person went through a reorg recently and feels that things haven't been going well since. We used to have more systems in place and more structure, and since the reorg, I feel like we haven't been able to get into the swing of things. Is this normal? Obviously, I know that these things take time, but right now I feel like we're just running around with chickens with our heads cut off. All right, the running around with chickens with their heads cut off is naturally how people feel right after change, right? So when a company changes, everybody gets a little panicked. Everyone gets nervous. Everyone gets unsettled. It's very natural. Change is hard. Seeing people that you loved at work or you respected at work or you learned a lot from at work or who kept you safe and protected at work, that's fucking scary, right? It can be sad. There's feelings of sadness. You can grieve, right? You can be like, I loved when we used to do this thing, or I loved when this person used to work here. Everyone has been through that. I've been through that. But you also have to be aware, kind of to the last question of like, why did it change and what's the rationale? And look, not all change is good. And sometimes when you make changes, even with the best intentions, the results can be disastrous or just shitty, or they can just take too long to get into place. So the first thing I would say is, like, don't be one of the chickens running around with your head cut off. Like, resist the urge to be a chicken. 2 is understand, like I said in the last question, of like, why are we making these changes? 3, you may hate the direction your company is going and you may not want to be a part of it, which is an awesome time to be like, oop, I don't want to do this. I'm going to get my resume going. I'm going to start networking. I'm going to pick my head up and look for another job. Or you may say, hey, I think I understand what the company was trying to do and the changes the company was endeavoring to make. I don't think they've totally landed the plane on that, or I don't think what they were trying to do actually happened. Here's 4 suggestions I'm going to have with my boss or with HR, with my manager, or in an open forum. Here are suggestions that I have for how we can make this work, or how we can make this transition more effective than it is today. Sometimes companies get too structured, and as a result, they aren't nimble, they aren't creative, they're not launching new ideas or new businesses or new things. My experience is that companies kind of like run the pendulum. Like, you get into times of like chaos and creativity, and then you have to get more structured, or you get into times where you're like, everything's going to be organized by vertical. We're going to get more siloed and more organized. And then you're like, oh, wait, that doesn't work. We're going to be more generalized and more horizontal in how we're organized. So I think that companies always shift from one way to another. Just don't be a chicken, understand what's happening, and then decide if you want to be a part of it, if you believe in the future, and if you do, engage to be a productive part of it. And if you don't, start activating on how you get out. How do I set expectations with my manager? We've gone through a lot of change in our company where a lot of people are changing roles, and I want to understand how I can set the best expectations with my boss. Expectation setting is super important. So Joanne used to always tell me, she would say, if I don't know what your expectations are of me, and haven't shared my expectations of you, it's natural that we're going to just disappoint one another, because we don't actually understand what each other are looking for. And that holds true for companies, that holds true for relationships with your boss, that holds true for relationships that you may have across your peers or your classmates or whatever. So my biggest thing is to ask your boss or your manager, what are your expectations? What are you looking for? Tell me what success looks like. How can I be of best assistance to you? Asking that question gets your partner, your boss, your manager, or your peer to open up about what their expectations are. I think following that, you can share what your expectations are. Hey, here's what I'm looking to achieve. I want to do ABC, XYZ, 1, 2, 3. Now, you may find that your boss's expectations and your expectations aren't exactly the same, and then that is a great opportunity for a dialogue, right? So when I talk to Jay at Penn, I'm like, all right, here's what my priorities are for Barstool Sports. I want to streamline the organization. I want to grow our commerce business faster than it's growing today. I want to find more personalities in our sports book, and I want to grow our presence in these following categories. Great. Jay's like, okay, that sounds awesome. Here are my priorities. I want to grow the Penn business. I want to expand Penn's footprint. I want to see greater traction in these markets. I need help with positioning around these regulators. Or, in our case, Jay may say, hey, I want to figure out how Barstool and one of my priorities, one of my expectations is that Barstool and the Score work more closely together. Okay, let's go figure that out. So I think having the conversation about expectations is a really great opportunity to just have a conversation, not only about what you want to achieve, but how you want to do things. And when you have that conversation, no matter how small your job is or how junior your boss may be, it helps you get on the right track. It helps you create a forum to share your voice about what you're looking for. And most importantly, it helps you get feedback on what your company is looking for from you so that you can make the decisions about if you want to do those things and how you want to do them.